Russia revealed its terrible secret as enemy troops swept into Europe. While their intentions are clear, little is known about the army terrorizing the continent.
Dude.
Yeah?
You check out Real World last night?
It's on my TiVo. Don't fucking spoil it.
I think I'm gonna check out some of the roommates' favorite music videos.
Brandon Sheffield told me that one of them really likes this new My Chemical Romance song. Let me know if it's any good.
All right. Oh, you got news for the podcast this week?
I mean, news. We've got a bunch of rumors. Like, what's the big one?
Microsoft buys Capcom, and then Capcom cancels a major PS3 exclusive, which is Metal Gear Solid Trilogy.
Yeah, where'd you read that?
Kotaku,
Oh.
I think.
I think I read it on Joystick.
One of those guys. Wait, didn't they buy us?
No comment.
Just send it over to me when you got it.
Alright.
So then he says, you forgot one thing. I decided to use laser cats again. That's awesome.
The digital short's the only good thing
I
on
know,
that show.
it's totally awesome.
Hey, so tomorrow, you gotta go to San Diego, you know?
Yeah, don't we have to leave, like, super too early?
Yeah.
I'll buy you one of those iced chai latte things you like so much.
You promised the Starbucks?
Yeah, giant, iced.
If
right.
that's all it takes, we'll buy you one of those
Starbucks?
fake drinks.
Yeah, and a burrito.
There's nothing fake about flavor, Ryan.
Alright, it's made with a powder, dude. Powder and water.
Dude, it's a syrup with milk.
Syrup is the new fucking powder. That's
It's
all I gotta
fucking,
say.
it's a syrup of awesome. I hate this place.
Dude, Coley, she likes jerk.
Hey, I don't wanna go to work today. Wanna stay home and play all my video games on the One Up Show. You know you'll be a star on the One Up Show. You already are. Every day, this life's a holiday. One up, 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 one up on the One Up Show. One up, 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 one up on the One Up Show.
What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, man?
You get the crossing footage?
Yeah. You know, we got the presentation that they gave us, but...
Let's check it out. Catch up.
We're going to talk to you about The Crossing. It's a very special game for us. We've been thinking about this game for the last 3 years, and it's about a year ago that we actually really started to work on it. And we started with two problems, and we wanted to address those problems. So the first problem is that AI is stupid. No matter how good it is, it's not going to beat a human. How do you create realistic human behavior? You know, how do you create reactions and speech and unpredictability and all these things? The second is multiplayer is meaningless, right? So if you look at games which are battles or skirmishes, they're great, but they're totally out of story context. You do these things over and over, and there's for no meaning. You don't really know. Beside just like winning the round, there's no proper emotional involvement. So the solution is the cross-player, single player and multiplayer worlds are merged.
We are building a new order in this land. You can stand with us or under us.
So seeing this again, it just reminds me like what a head trip this entire thing is.
Yeah.
And like how difficult it is to quickly describe to someone what the crossing is all about. I mean, the quickest way, everyone gets it right away. Multiplayer, single player, cross player. The two are combined. But the specifics of how the two come together is what is just like hard to wrap your head around. So like what I've been telling a lot of people, in the first sense, you have the single player game that you're used to playing. Say you're playing Half-Life, Doom, or whatever the case. But what would be an AI actor or non-playable character that you encounter could potentially be another player out there that they would jump in. So in Half-Life, say helicopter comes out, it's chasing you in the canals in your boat and stuff. All of a sudden, someone could be flying that helicopter, or someone could be one of the guys that, for what it's worth, they could be one of the guys that runs out on the bridge that you just run under, and then they fall down into the canal. The difficult thing about that, obviously, is, you know, we all want to be Gordon Freeman in that case, or we all want to be Space Marine that sends the Hellions back to hell. But who wants to be the dude that runs out on the bridge that's there, so you pull the pilings out under with your boat so they can fall down into the canal, you know?
In the Crossing, rather than simulate realistic bots, we incorporate real players into your single-player experience. This is going to create a very unique climactic moment for everybody, where suddenly they have the skirmish players have got objectives which matter and that support or stop the objective of the story players. Now, not only that, but the skirmish players have also the possibility to act as mercenaries and fill up positions of AIs. Think of it like in the Matrix movie, where Agent Smith possess the peons as soon as the peons can see the story players. So, you know, you could be one of those mercenaries standing in line, in a queue, where anytime that there is a possibility to go there and act as a PK for the story players, then you can do so and then gain some ranking for that and other kind of rewards. So in effect, it is the best of both single-player and multiplayer worlds, because you get the narration structure and the adrenaline, the challenge of fighting with another human, and the surprise and replayability.
So that's just one part of how cross-player works in the game, though. And that would be easy enough to explain, but here's the other part. You gotta think of it in terms of normal multiplayer. Say you've got two teams, think of it like Battlefield or something like that, Return to Wolfenstein, enemy territory, and they are both fighting for some specified goal, whatever, it's one team against the other. And what happens is that those levels that they're in can serve as intervening levels for the single player. So say you, and that's why it's even more complicated, it can be co-op too. So say the main game, you and a friend are playing, all of a sudden, level 5, right? What it's gonna do is take that multiplayer game, insinuate the two of you into it, change the mission structure for them so that it makes sense for you. And then maybe one of their teams is gonna help you and the other is gonna try to fight you and them, or in any way, shape, or form. They can just mix it up and iterate on it, infinitely. And you basically play that, whatever 10-minute round of that, and that's just a round for them, and it turns out to be a level for you if you're playing single or co-op. And then back to the other stuff where you have the Agent Smith-like stuff going on, and back to that. So it's potentially really confusing. Mm-hmm. But I think when you listen to it, you immediately go, aha, that's some cool stuff. If you can get it to work, and that's what everyone says, if you can get this to work.
So regarding the story, we decided to go for a collision between two different worlds, the world as we know it and another world.
France is collapsing under the weight of its own government. In Paris's ghettos, anarchy. Two realities are about to collide. What if the Knights Templar had survived 1307?
Crossing is very interesting exercise because the incident that changed the world happened 600 years ago in the 13th century. And it was basically when the Templar Knights were burnt on a stake by the king. Now we just imagine, for the sake of exercise, what if they had not been burned on a stake and they had taken over France? Therefore, France had become a crusading country. And what if there had been no Renaissance? And the whole history of Europe was affected by this. It's very, very classical science fiction. So there's no magic, there's no aliens involved here. This is just an instance of parallel reality. What if something had happened in the past that changed our present? And how would things have evolved?
Well, this is what I got so far. I mean, it's coming together pretty well. So hopefully, you know, end of day or probably tomorrow should be done.
Did I get to come check it out?
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, cool, man.
Can't wait.
All right, later.
I didn't even think you played Jeffrey
I
before.
don't really play Jeffrey, but he's just so big, he looks silly. He's fun. Yeah, he's not one of my characters though. I'm learning Blaze actually.
Hey boys.
What's up?
What's up?
Shane, what score did you give Phoenix Wright Justice for All?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm playing VF5. Who cares?
What score did you give it?
I think like a 6. Yeah. 6.
Objection!
What? Well, I reviewed the first one. Did either of you guys review the first one?
Yeah, I was on the review for the first one.
What'd you give the first one?
8.
I gave the first one a 7.
Why'd you give the first one a 7?
Because it's a better game than the second one.
But what? You didn't know that when the first one came out.
Well, the first one was a 7 intrinsically. It's really well written. It's fun. It's innovative. But then this new one is shorter, harder, and less fun than the first.
I played the first one after you guys played it. I did employ the use of a walkthrough on the first one because it was there. I actually never used a walkthrough for the second one, so I actually felt that it was easier. What was so hard about it?
The Cyclops. The only new addition to the entire game is the Cyclops.
No, it isn't.
Okay, what's the other new addition?
You can also present characters' dossiers in lieu of hard, cold evidence.
Well, that doesn't really change the gameplay.
It doesn't.
I thought it does.
Really?
Yeah, I thought I did too, because I thought I was out of moves and didn't know what to do, and then realized, oh, I had to show this person's face because that's the only way I can get past this puzzle.
And then I think with the Cyclops too, it expands it some more because you're doing like court stuff outside of court. It made me feel like I was like working the case, like I was working the case.
It turned the puzzle into a fetch quest. Yes. In essence. No. And I felt, although I appreciated that they were trying to do something new, I didn't feel particularly strongly one way or the other for this additional stuff. But I felt at the heart of the game felt exactly the same, even though they added this new stuff. It really seemed to be like relishing in its own quirkiness this time around, which I actually didn't like. I like that the first one was effortlessly quirky.
Some of the
characters this time,
over the top quirky now.
They were pushing it a little too hard, and it didn't really have the same like pathos as the first game had. Like I had so much empathy in the
like the whole Edgeworth thing. There was more like personal drama kind of in the first one. There's all this really weird like mystical stuff, and like they kind of like act like that's okay in a court of law, and it's like like yes, she transformed into this other woman, but like could you imagine that in a court here? And like no, that's it's a little weird.
The mystical stuff actually did rub me the wrong way. Like you have this magical stone called the Matador or whatever.
That's the Megatama.
Right, the Megatama. Pardon me. And it allows Phoenix Wright to hallucinate and see your innermost, like see whether or not you're hiding something. I was just like, what? Like it was so far away.
CSI doesn't have that.
Sounds like Ally McBeal in the video game.
It's a little bit like Ally McBeal in the video game. I don't want to diss it, even though I gave it a 6, which is an above average score. I still think the writing is excellent. It's super funny. Like
the characters are great. The actual cases, they're very well done. Like lots of twists and turns.
I thought it wasn't quite as funny this time.
Me too.
It's pretty serious, actually.
I love courtroom drama. I love courtroom drama.
I also love courtroom drama. And if you loved Phoenix Wright, like nobody who loved Phoenix Wright is going to hate this game.
Right.
But like me, who really enjoyed Phoenix Wright, I think you will be disappointed. I think it's okay to be disappointed. The game is shorter.
Yes.
It doesn't have the innovation. The fifth case added to the first game was a new case made
Right.
specifically for DS. There is no fifth case this time.
I'll agree with you on that.
So there's
There
none
needs
of
to be a lot more.
right.
of
There's
that.
none of the touchscreen like
Right, there was none of
analyzing
that.
evidence.
Right.
Yeah. I really love it, but sometimes I tend to outthink it or overthink it. Like I'm playing like a real lawyer game, so I'm like analyzing evidence that doesn't need to be analyzed like that.
like there's so much room for improvement, and they're making a real new Phoenix Wright game. The fourth one is being made specifically for DS. So I think we're going to see the third one probably still like a port, another quickie port. And like I just want something new. This is just like a rehash. It's like it's the bare minimum I would expect for a Phoenix Wright game. I'm not going to commend it for like them doing almost no work.
They wrote a brand new story, and that's kind of the core of the game.
Well, they wrote this brand new story, I don't know, 3 years ago when this came up for Game Boy Advance, and it was a cheap port to DS. The Japanese version actually has all the English in it already.
Did the GBA one come out in America?
No, it never
well
came
then,
out, but there are 3 of them for GBA, and we're slowly getting those 3 here for
right,
DS.
but you can't hold that against this now.
I can hold the fact that it's not a game made for the DS. I mean, like, if you port any Game Boy Advance game and charge $30, $40 for
to
it.
make the first game feel right on the DS.
They
did so much to make that game really work on the
20%
DS.
less content. And that 20%
Right.
content was the new content that used DS. And without that, I'm sorry, you don't get a free pass. You can't sell me a downgraded version and expect me to like it better than the first one. Skip Fister.
I think the story was good enough to justify
Story
it.
is really good. If you're a Phoenix Wright fan and you have, say, $30 to spend on an adventure game this February, don't buy Phoenix Wright. Instead, buy Hotel Dusk. Better game.
Well,
And it's made for
that's
DS.
good. Nice.
Speaking of which, I'm ruining your score here.
Oh my god!
He's clowning you.
When I beat Milky on the 1UP show,
Yeah.
it'll be because I trained with you.
So objection sustained. Thanks. Let's go.
Bye.
Overruled.
You're gonna die now. Again.
Keep this up, Agent, and you're on your own.
We say it's like a GTA-like game, but it's not quite.
No.
You're a super cop, super police.
It's not even not quite. It's not at all like a GTA game.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of differences, right? Starting with that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the huge wide open world.
And,
And
developed
that's
by
it.
David
That-
Jones, and the
yeah.
GTA comparisons end there.
Yeah, renderware will love.
It's got more in common with what was the second Incredible Hulk game called?
The Incredible Hulk.
Ultimate
Destruction.
Ultimate, whatever. The one where you could like run along buildings and stuff. It's got more in common with that or Spider-Man 2
Yeah,
than
Ryan,
it does GTA.
Ryan mentioned the Incredible Hulk game, so I went back and I checked it out. There were cooler things I could do as a super powered creature. You know, like the thing that began to wear on me and just made me feel like, God, there's so much more potential here with Crackdown is that it's just you're super powerful and now you're gonna go shoot more bad guys, and that's it. I mean, oh, you can jump over a building, now go shoot more bad guys. There's no variety to the mission.
While it seems that they reduce very simply to go kill this dude because you're near him, go kill this girl because you're near her. There's a sort of weird complexity the way the game allows you to go through these.
And it's really... Every Kingpin has, what, 6, 7 bosses that works for them, and each of them is responsible for a different thing with this. So there's weapons development and recruitment and vehicles
There's
and...
There's HR.
There's HR.
Yeah,
So there's treating a gang as a business, and then so what you're doing by attacking the bosses is tackling the departments within the business of that gang in order. And depending on the order that you take them on, the game changes dramatically.
Colonel Axton Cowell's removal is doubly beneficial. Without his all-seeing eye to guide it, and his considerable security system to protect it.
So if you take the weapons guy out first, you're only ever going to be up against a lot of guys because they're still recruiting, but they're all going to have the simplest weapons in the game. Or if you go after the car guy, they're not going to come after you with vehicles. But if you take the recruitment guy out first, the bad guys don't respawn. I think there's a sort of secondary layer to it that it's not like it just hands it to you on a plate and says, hey, this is how you play this game, go do it like this. I mean, the bosses aren't really the challenges, it's more, and the boss himself is never a challenge, it's what he surrounds himself with.
Right.
Like, and as you get further and further into it, you can walk into something, and I think the beauty of the graphics is because they're so simple that they can throw tons of stuff on the screen.
Yeah.
So you can walk into a building and there's 50 guys lock onto you.
But you're still just going to be able to go in with a bunch of weapons and shoot until the guy dies. There were several times where I just basically ran past all the bad guys and just shot the head boss, never dealing with any of the bad guys, and then leapt out, and then the Peacekeeper Force comes in and kills all the bad guys for you, and that's it.
I mean, at its heart, I mean, it's just a...
It is.
It's just a
feels
shooter.
Like, it feels like an old Nintendo arcade game where there's a guy at the end, you just run through hundreds of mindless lagoons between you and him.
They are
That's all it
super
is.
mindless too. I
Yeah.
found that I could sneak up on them with my SUV. No, seriously,
Those
like
things are
one of the
silent
best
these
ways,
days, you know?
one of the best ways to get more driving points is to just run people over.
Right.
Only some of them would dodge out of the way at the last second. So if you just slowly roll up to them, and they're shooting the gun at you, but if you got the agency SUV, it barely hurts you. You slowly roll up to them, they just stand there shooting at you, and then you just hit the gas and run right over.
I think that the shooting, as far as in these like emergent world games, is always something that they're terrible with. Like Grand Theft Auto, the biggest problem I've always had with it was that it's just not fun to kill people at all because the targeting is garbage, and the targeting in Crackdown is actually far from garbage. But with the right stick, you can actually target different parts of people or vehicles.
Do you guys use that precision targeting a lot? Like, I found that when I was doing one of the attacks on one of the bosses, there's so many of them, so many bullets come at me, I would just, lock, fire, kill, and just keep moving on. Like, I didn't have time to, hit the, weapon out of his arm, then shoot him in the head to finish him off. I just kept shooting, the quickest shot that I had.
I pretty much use a grenade launcher. My explosive skill when I finish totally maxed out because I just take the grenade launcher and it launches forever. It's such a total destructoid cheater weapon because you can fire it like city blocks far away incredibly accurately.
The most fun I have is when I'm running around the city and I see agility orbs, which are on all the buildings, and you can scale up them, grabbing on ledges, get to the very top, and then you grab those. You see one like, maybe another 20 feet up, I can get up there, or I can hit this ledge and get up there. And that I enjoyed that kind of platformy puzzle solving more than I did the repetitive missions.
That's the spirit.
I think co-op is a big deal, and it was a lot of fun because you can jump in whenever. And I think that's why the story is so non-linear. There's no narrative thread going through it because you can take on a mission, and because there's no cutscene or anything, your buddy can be on another island doing whatever the hell he wants. Like, you don't have to be together at all. But then you can be like, oh, your buddy is under fire, go help him. You can do that or not.
There wasn't a sense that we were really teaming up against anything, and Ryan and I were playing, and I was just basically like, so what are we doing now? I don't know, let's go kill a bad guy. I was playing with a new character, and Ryan's character was super powered up, and my character was brand new, and it was very uneven. Like, he was just blazing through all these bad guys, and I basically wasn't getting any points. You're going to have to figure out how to get somebody who's at your level, because they're able to jump over buildings and get to places very quickly that you can't. With the co-op, I could see people who are into this sort of thing, but I can see emergent gameplay coming from people deciding, oh, how high can I stack cars? Because it will that world will
one guy
persist.
throwing cars, the other one shooting them, and see
Right.
what happens. I think there's going to be a lot. I think we're going to see a lot of videos taken from this game.
Whenever you talk with the Crackdown people, they always hype up you could have your friend get in a car and you could throw him up and blow him out of the sky with a rocket launcher and he can jump up and fly even further and it's awesome. That's sort of the way that they pitch it to you when they're talking about the co-op, is all the zany things that you can do because there isn't a real narrative that you're going to be able to explore with a cooperative player.
Something I'd like to see in the download content is them coming up with other gameplay, just rather than giving you new stuff, or with some skins, that it actually drops in some new gameplay rules. Because there's the big flashlights that there's the race points, and then there's the rooftop chase point, and you have to work out the route up the building. But I think there's a lot of potential just within the environment for them just to set rules and for there to be, you know, other colors of these lights going up with different criteria, like go and blow up a number of things. Or I think you can probably set your own stuff, but I think there's a lot of potential here where the world is so flexible that I think they could probably stretch this thing out for a long time.
But that's why I felt frustrated by the boss battles and by the basic game mechanics, is because I do see so much potential for some really interesting boss battles, some really interesting game mechanics, and really it's just go, run, and shoot. And yeah, you've got these races and you've got these agility things, but they're like separate from the rest of the game. You know, they're just ways to level your character up to go shoot more guys.
If you go through the game and you just try and go through all the things that it does and doesn't do, it comes across pretty negative, but I just had a really good time with it. I mean, like, it was, I mean, I can see that it's got a thing, and you're like, well, I think, you know, you got this huge world, but there's no interiors, or there's a lot of things that I think there's going to be other open world games that go into, there's a lot more content in them, but this, I just had such a good blast with it, and the fact that I didn't mind going back and starting from the beginning, and I've not even been chasing achievements yet.
You know, we have like GTA 4 coming up this year, and, you know, we know it's going to maybe blow everything else away, possibly, but you know, this is a good start, and you know, I wish there were more to it. I wish there were some other mini games, because yeah, I do feel like, okay, what now? Okay, maybe another mission, all right, and maybe another race, and that's about it. But getting to and from those things, I'm having so much fun. Like, at first, I don't mind right now. Maybe, you know, second time through, maybe I'll start getting bored of it.
I know you had fun playing it. I know you had fun playing it. I know you had fun playing it. I had fun playing it. But like when you're talking about it, it sounds sort of rote, and it sounds like, yeah, it's more the same, but it's more the same, but good. And that's the thing about Crackdown, is it doesn't lend itself well to being talked about. It lends itself really well to being played. And actually just sitting down and playing Crackdown is a lot of fun.
I think that is what people are going to get. People that do warm to it, I think, are going to get off on the co-op, not because they're playing the game the way they're supposed to. It's just because they're dicking around in it, and they're going to get together, and it's going to be glorified crazy sandbox chat room, ultimately, where two guys are like, let's see what we can do tonight. Oh, I'm going to pick up this truck, and I'm going to throw it at that thing, and then, you know, let's try and do the fight from Superman 2 where we throw a bus at each other.
Despite my complaints, and Ryan fully disagrees with me, but I have a ton of fun. I found myself laughing out loud while I was playing because, you know, as my explosive skills increasing, I'm just watching these enormous chain reaction explosions and these, you know, insane moments where, like, I'm leaping from one building and firing a rocket and, like, watching people just explode and pinwheel in flames off into just carnage, and it's fun.
It's weird visiting with David Jaffe about, you know, a game like Calling All Cars, because, you know, he mentioned it, and it's clear once he did, but it's totally influenced by, you know, like games like NBA Jam and these midway like arcade titles from, you know, the early to mid 90s. It's just so much different than
like a God of War, but not like terribly different from something like Twisted Metal.
You get tied into these 3-year cycles, and you kind of put your head down and you don't see the sun for 3 years. And the idea of actually putting a game out that took 6 to 8 months, which is where this is going to come in at, is just a great feeling. It's because you can see the end of the road. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel almost from the very beginning. You can see the fun very quickly. Like on this game, we were seeing the genesis of what we think is fun in this game within maybe 3 or 4 weeks, whereas on something like God of War, it took months. It probably took over a year before we really found the heart and soul of that game. So it's better just personally to sort of, you know, to do your work. It's more satisfying.
Like, you're driving around capturing these prisoners, and if you have a prisoner in your car for too long, it says shot clock violation, and Jeffy said, oh, well, we're going to change that later, but it sort of is a testament to how much the game is influenced by an NBA Jam type game.
You are essentially picking up, you know, the criminal and driving him to the basket. Like, you're fully driving him to the hole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, kind of like a more arcadey basketball where there are hoops, different hoops at different heights that are worth different points and that sort of thing. I mean, it's a simple game. There's not much to it. What, 3 weapons and 4 players or something like that?
3 weapons, 4 players, 4 maps. I mean, by the numbers, it's you know, pretty compact, and the most surprising thing is that it's actually really fun.
Yeah.
How many other weapons were you considering for the game?
We started with about 6, and we pared it down to 3. And this is kind of one of the things that we really like about doing the sort of PlayStation Store games, the downloadable games, is that when we did Twisted Metal or even God of War, there's always this sense that it's $60, and so you've got to find a way to make sure that you're giving players enough value for that $60. And sometimes the value is genuine, and sometimes the value is like, they're paying $60 and the game would be better if you only had this, but it feels looser. It doesn't feel as sort of substantial a product. But when we're doing these games for like under $10, we actually felt the game works better with 3 weapons, because you've got short range, medium range, and long range, and each one of those weapons can be defended against. And it's like that kind of that's the whole meal. That's your soup and your salad and your entree and your dessert, and just throw more in there, which we would feel compelled to do with a more expensive game, would just kind of bloat it out. And so we feel that the 3 weapons, the hammer, the magnet, and the missile, really kind of speak to the kind of experience we want players to have. We wanted to make sure every map played differently. What we didn't want to do is have, the city map and here's the suburban map, and it's kind of the same, it's just tweaked a little bit. We wanted to make sure that every time you picked a map, you were getting a different play experience. And sort of in the development time that we had and the way that we're able to sell a game for under $10 is we're not spending $25 million to make it, we're spending substantially less. We were able to say, okay, we have this much time for this many maps, and instead of making 6, which we probably could have made, let's make 4 that really stand out, and then if players want more, it's very easy with the PS3 download service to just sort of make more and put them out there if people are interested.
This game's pretty cool. It's pretty fun.
Well, you, Kathleen, and I had a good time. I've been goofing around with it, and me not winning.
Yeah, but at the same time, I thought like, okay, I won the first game, and it looked like at the beginning of game 2 that I was a shoo-in to win that one, but it goes back and forth just like anything else. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like, I don't know, like how Mario Kart feels, where luck plays more of a part, like a component to who wins or loses, more than skill, I would say.
Well, yeah, like the first game, you got out to that big lead because you scored into one of the 2 extra, like the helicopter and the paddy wagon come out. And if you score on one of those, if you deliver a criminal on one of those, you get more points.
Right.
And you scored on one of those, and you got such a huge lead that it was hard for us to make up the difference. And Jaffe talked about how that was that's a design flaw right now that they're ironing out to make sure that when someone gets out to a lead like that, there'll be ways to compensate, like maybe the helicopter will spawn again or stuff like that. And
right.
It's not just like, I'm in last place, oh, lightning bolt, I win.
I would never put this game out on Blu-ray. It wouldn't work at retail. It's not the kind of game people buy anymore at a $60 price point or a $50 price point. Even if you look at the success of Uno on Xbox Live, which is a game I play all the time now. I love that game. There have been Uno games on, I think, PS2. I know there's been one on the DS. If they barely sell at all, it's just a little bit. And it's been a huge success for Xbox Live Arcade, and it's because I think the kind of games that you can make and the kind of subject matter you can deal with is different when you're asking somebody to pay $10 and you're asking them to, here's a free demo before you buy, and you can buy it at 2 in the morning when you're sitting on your couch and you can't sleep. It's a different experience, and because of all those factors, I think we can sort of tackle different kinds of games, either from a thematic standpoint or from a gameplay standpoint. So that's another big difference that excites me a lot.
One of the biggest critiques of the PlayStation Network is its lack of a holistic, across the board community. And it's not as easy to navigate as, say, Xbox Live is right now, just because it's left to the developers. So, even inviting your friends to a game is a little bit stickier. And this game lends itself so well to multiplayer functionality and networking.
Right.
I mean, how are you tackling that?
That doesn't worry me at all. I got Xbox 360 almost from the day it was out, and it was nowhere near the level of sort of feature set and robustness as it is now as it was when I purchased it. I mean, so a lot of the things people are complaining about on the PlayStation, oh, you can't do anything while you're downloading, or it won't save sort of in the memory footprint of the download, and you have to come back and start all over again. All of those things were apparent and existent on Xbox 360. And so I'm not worried at all about that, especially that we're launching in March. My understanding is, and this is all just, I'm reading, y'all's website, and I'm reading, NeoGAF and going, there's something coming in March. I think Phil Harrison mentioned that about for the launch in Europe. And so that doesn't worry me. In regards to the developer side, which is a different issue in terms of there not being necessarily the Xbox Live Arcade or the Xbox Live, sort of environment and infrastructure. You know, we haven't seen any problems with resistance. We've had no problem with calling all cars. You know, so far that hasn't really proven to be, as a game player, I haven't really experienced, you know, I played Ridge Racer online, I haven't experienced that problem. The thing I've experienced is like, yeah, it really sucks that I can't do anything else while I'm downloading. It really sucks that, you know, my kid bumped into the thing and shut my system off and I have to restart the download. All that, my understanding is that's all being addressed, and so it doesn't concern me.
Kind of feel like no one would be talking about it if it wasn't David Jaffe who made it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If this was just some like innocuous XNA developed title, no one would care.
Exactly.
But because it's like, it's the guy who made God of War. It's, you know, it's a big deal. And the game, I mean, the game for like one of the first 5 or so PlayStation Network, you know, created titles, it's cool. And if they can get more of their premium developers, like maybe get Ted Price and Insomniac on a game like a small casual type game too. I mean, if that becomes another resource for Sony to use in their first party, I think it could be really good. And if Calling All Cards is any indication of the direction that those guys can go, all those like first party developers, I think PlayStation Network could be okay.
Yeah, I would especially like to see some of the Japanese developers that Sony has, their first party teams out there, like, you know, the Eco team or something like that, try to do something a little bit smaller, something that doesn't take 3 or 4 years to make, you know what I mean?
And it's more than just a series of pictures.
Yes. Hey man, I played early builds of that game that ran at like 10 frames a second. I still liked it, so.
I don't know. I mean, talking with Jaffe, wasn't it like sometimes it was like more of the same? Like, didn't he shit all over One Up Tech last year when you guys talked to him?
He always does that, but you know, on some level, you gotta roll with the punches if you're throwing punches of your own.
Do you feel like SCEA sent Resistance to die? We didn't do that, did we?
I guess they weren't that tough. It's a nice day.